everything. We're not even going to tell you about the possibility of these recordings of Biden making deals with Ukrainian officials and Burisma. That kind of activity, that in and of itself should be enough to fire the FBI director.
All right, next story, Fred.
Well, last week we saw very visibly with cameras rolling, former President Trump appeared in the courtroom in Miami, facing a 37-count indictment with regards to the documents at his home there in Mar-a-Lago. If he thought he was going to get any support from his former Attorney General, Bill Barr, think again. The relationship between those two men is not good, right, and that is putting it mildly. And Bill Barr on the weekend was on Face the Nation, and he was not afraid at all to give his assessment of where the former president stands with regards to those documents. Cut number 3.
How strong is the special counsel's case on obstruction specifically?
Well, it's very strong because a lot of the evidence comes from his own lawyers. And furthermore, there's evidence of him saying things that are completely incompatible with any idea that this was an innocent document dispute.
Do you believe he lied to the Justice Department?
Do I personally believe it? Yes, I do.
And do you believe that he continues to claim that he has all these privileges and rights under the Presidential Records Act? Is he mischaracterizing the act?
Absolutely. The legal theory by which he gets to take battle plans and sensitive national security information as his personal papers is absurd. It's just as wacky as the legal doctrine they came up with for, having the vice president unilaterally determine who won the election. The whole purpose of the statute, the Presidential Records Act, was to stop presidents from taking official documents out of the White House. It was passed after Watergate. That's the whole purpose of it. And therefore, it restricted what a president can take. It says it's purely private, that had nothing to do with the deliberations of government policy. Obviously, these documents are not purely private. It's obvious. And they're not even now arguing that it's purely private. What they're saying is the president just has sweeping discretion to say they are, even though they squarely don't fall within the definition. It's an absurd argument.
Well, that's former Attorney General Bill Barr, who was Trump's AG for, a couple of years after he fired Jeff Sessions from Alabama, the senator there. Barr took over, and that's Barr commenting on his views. Of course, President Trump pleaded not guilty, or is that what you plead? Not guilty?
Not guilty.
Okay, and he'll have his day in court, and his lawyers will present the other side of the argument right there. But I guess it comes down, it seems to me this comes down to, does a president have the right to take any and everything he wants to when he leaves the White House? I'm talking about with documents, and say they belong to me because I have the right to them as a president, or is there some process you're supposed to go through in order to decide what's personal and what's the property of the government, particularly if you're in something involved military secrets?
Yeah, I'm going to be very interested if they get this show on the road here and not drag out the prosecution of the president over these documents over a year's time or whatever they might decide to do. I'd be very interested in how this plays out, because I have read things that seem to indicate that a president does have sweeping powers to declassify information. You hear Bill Barr here saying, well, it's only personal information, personal papers, personal documents. Well, why would you need to declassify personal documents? If it's personal, it's not classified, almost by definition. And so I'm just very interested. I don't know the answer to this kind of disparity between what Bill Barr just laid out and what others that I've read have said about the president's sweeping powers to do it. So we'll have to wait.
Well, okay. Whether Mr. Trump is correct in his argument, his lawyers that basically could take anything, right, or Barr's right. If it's true that a president can take any and everything he wants to when leaving the White House, then we need to change that law, huh? Because that you don't need top military secrets. I'm not saying this is what Mr. Trump did. That's the accusation. Understand me? I'm just saying the idea. To me, I do agree with Barr. The idea that you can take anything and everything you want to your home, if it involves military secrets or attacks on other countries, plans of that should be kept in a top secret at the Defense Department, at the Pentagon, or something like that. You understand what I'm saying?
And you should enforce that law with all presidents, because my understanding is President Obama had all kinds of going way back to President Clinton, that these presidents regularly, I guess, for their memoirs or to put in the presidential library. I don't know.
But see, that is personal. I agree. That is personal. I distinguish between a clipping about the inauguration ball and plans to invade Iran.
Well, yeah. However, and I agree too. Plans to invade Iran, if that's actually what we've heard that, if that's actually what President Trump had in his possession, I would agree. However, if a former president who leaves office wants to write his memoirs, he's got to have documents and say, listen, I met with Benjamin Netanyahu, this is what we discussed, and you've got to have those documents.
I think you need to apply for this job. You sound passionate about it, and when presidents leave the office, Biden and whoever's next, you need to sit down and go through every single.
Oh no! Well, listen. At our house, we're throwing stuff out. Even my kids' school papers, they're going out in the garbage. I'm not saying.
Okay,
I'm just kidding.
Some of this. I'm not saying that Mr. Barr's professional opinion is not. I don't say he's making it up right there.
Right.
We just heard right there. I think he's a very serious man. I really do. But he and Trump are at a words war now, because
they don't like each other.
Well, Trump, Barr basically looked at the indictment and said on national television, if half of this is true, Trump's toast.
Yes.
That was his quote. To which Trump came back and said, oh yeah?
Bill Barr's a great guy.
Bill Barr's lazy. He was lazy as my AG, and he's a, quote, gutless pig, end quote. So I think after Trump called Barr a gutless pig, that's when Barr came out yesterday and said, well, I got some more to say. Huh? So they're in a war of words.
Yeah.
Is what I'm
And also, by the way, I would say there may be some conflicts between the various laws that are being applied. There's an Espionage Act, which is supposed to be from the early 1900s. It was supposed to be used to go after actual traitors and spies. That has some bearing on this. And I think there's 2 or 3 different laws that may be at cross purposes, and that may be why we're getting a difference of opinion.
Here's the one thing I don't understand. I'd like to hear somebody talk about sometime who are lawyers or constitutional lawyers, and that is this. Seems what happened here. Trump, the National Archives says, hey, you got some boxes of classified stuff or some information we want back. And he gave a bunch of it back. Trump did, and his lawyers. Then they found out, the National Archives, that they reported it to the Department of Justice. Trump had not, according to them, given them everything. He only gave them part of it. And then Mr. Trump said, well, I'm not giving you back anything else because it's mine.
Right.
I had the right. I could declassify anything just by thinking about it when I left the White House. That's what he said. So then the argument became, who's right on this? Here's what I think probably would have been wise in retrospect, and is Mr. Trump's lawyers go to court to say, no, we maintain the right to everything else that we're in possession of, and have this fought out in court rather than sort of force the hand of the Justice Department to put up or shut up. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
When they wanted to go after these other documents. So I don't know, but Mr. Trump will get his day in court. I don't know when that'll be. You said that'll be in 2074? Yeah, is that when you said that'll be?
Listen, all this stuff is being dragged out because I do think there are political purposes in some of these prosecutions. I'm not saying there's no there. That will be determined in court. But when you have the district attorney of Manhattan, Alvin Bragg, say our second hearing on the case in New York City, the supposed payment of hush money to these two women, the second hearing is going to be in December of this year, just before the Iowa caucuses and New Hampshire primary in January. That from April. That April is the first hearing. The next one's going to be in December, right before the political season kicks off. I think they're going to want to extend this so that it interrupts Trump's attempts to get the nomination.
Not going to interrupt him. It's going to make his numbers go up.
That's the way it's
every indictment, he gets another 10 points.
Yeah.
On the support from the support. Go ahead, Fred.
Isn't it interesting? We're talking about how diligent the DOJ seems to be in investigating the documents found at Mr. Trump's residence. Where's the investigation with regards to the documents in Biden's garage and in other places?
Well, there is a special counsel. If you want to LOL right here, go ahead. I understand. Assigned to this particular case. Let me also say this. A sitting president cannot be indicted, as I understand it, constitutionally. So whatever is going to happen or not happen to Mr. Biden regarding the